Great, thanks very much. Well, that was a good start to the morning session, talking about exploration, which we often do not do. Mundro is firmly focused on exploration in the Tethyan Belt. It is hard to describe exploration without making forward-looking statements, so please make sure that you're aware of those. We have 10 minutes, and that's not enough time to really talk about anything in detail, so I'm going to go over the company in very high level. What's important to keep in mind is that we're focused on Serbia and Bulgaria, which is primarily the Timok mining camp in Serbia. All of our projects are located around existing mines, so we basically try and leverage infrastructure that's around if a future discovery is made. We do partnerships, which I think is really important, and I'm glad that that was brought up by Brent, because that is actually probably one of the best ways to finance exploration activity, certainly over this year and over the last few years. In terms of the Tethyan Belt commodities, copper and gold are really the ones that we focus on. And I think it is important to highlight the team. The team is entirely local. They have experience exclusively in the Tethyan Belt. We have, with this team, made discoveries in other parts of the world. So I think that's an important factor when evaluating what kind of exploration stories to get into. In terms of our capital, I've got an interesting chart that'll show how we spend money and what that means in terms of dilution for shareholders. And I think one thing to kind of keep in mind about Mundro is that really we have 3 different portfolios in the company in order to generate discovery. So the first is our Jogmec joint venture in Timok, and I'll go into that in a bit more detail. But essentially this year, that is geophysics and drilling. So that's really how we bring value to shareholders. In South Timok, that is a portfolio that's quite large, and we're currently talking to potentially bringing in another partner in that portfolio. And in Bulgaria, it's very interesting. We just won a tender in October of last year. That's a pretty exciting asset, and I'll go into that in more detail. So in terms of the team, I think what's important to keep in mind is that it's really that local experience. Wherever in the world you are looking at investing with juniors, if they have that local experience in their belt, and not just in that one little district, but understand those models extensively, I think that's a really good indicator of whether you're going to be able to make a discovery with that team. In terms of our ownership structure, we're about 50-50 retail and institutional. We have probably a growing institutional shareholder base over the last few years as a result of 2 financings. But essentially what you see here, and I think it's important to take a look at that chart, in 2016 we brought on Jogmec. The more dollars that you bring into the ground and you create an opportunity for a discovery, your share price usually reflects that. And certainly right now in 2018, we plan on bringing another partner in our South Timok projects. We expect a lot more capital to go into the ground, and I think that's also an exciting opportunity. So what are we exactly? I think this is really important. So I used to be in equity research. I used to be on the sell side for 10 years. And certainly as an equity research analyst, one of the things you definitely want to understand is what exactly is this company. So we are not a prospect generator in the sense that we don't just go out, claim ground, and then immediately pop it to a partner. We actually, our number one focus is to make a discovery. And like I mentioned, we do actually have an exceptional team on the ground. So what we do is we actually leverage how we put money into the ground. So our strategy is we are an explorer. We do partnerships. Those are strategic. We don't want to become a producer. There's plenty of reasonable producers out there that are looking for quality development assets. Our goal is to make a discovery and then monetize that for our shareholders. And that is our valuation according to Cantor Fitzgerald. So certainly at least a 5 times, 10 times fold for the company from where we are today. So again, I'm kind of putting on my equity research hat here and trying to give you a little bit of data to try and figure out for yourself whether you can value exploration companies. A lot of people think that the only way to value a company is by the number of resources they have. That is, one aspect, but only one sliver of how you value equities in the resource space, and particularly exploration. So take a look at how much cash they have, what kind of team they have, how many dollars are actually going in the ground each year, and what dilution you get as a result of that. That will give you a very good sense of whether the company you're investing in is actually efficient at what they do or they're wasting capital. So one of the things that I've tried to highlight here is over the last 5 years across our peers, we've actually put one of the most amounts of money in the ground, third, compared to obviously Novo, which has a discovery now. And certainly in terms of equity dilution, we have the lowest dilution. And that's because we're constantly balancing when to go to the market and when to go to partners. So we're very efficient. And obviously one of the things that we do exceptionally well is getting dollars in the ground to make a discovery. So what do? We're in the western portion of the Tethyan Belt. That's basically in Serbia and Bulgaria. Highly active market in Serbia. I'm sure you're all aware that Lundin is back at it again in terms of the Čukaru deposit that now is in the hands of Nevsun. So I think this just gives you an understanding that this district is very prolific. It has a great deal amount of value, and certainly a land position in there is highly attractive. And certainly Mundro today is the only group that has an independent land package that's not associated with anyone. In the north, we've got Jogmec optioning 4 of our licenses, and in the south, as I mentioned, we're going to bring in another partner this year. So in terms of phase 1 with Jogmec, this is really important. Who is Jogmec? Not a lot of people know them. They're the Japanese state fund that invests globally for basically base metals and energy. They have about 60 investments globally, and we are their only investment in Eastern Europe and certainly in the Tethyan Belt, which they think is a strategic belt for future copper resources. As one of the prior speakers, Brent, already mentioned, the decline in copper discovery, certainly in South America. So this is what Timok looks like. It's a 35,000 people community. It lives with mining. This is the real benefit. Your social license to operate in this district has already been done for you. That is a tremendous opportunity for anyone coming into this district. In terms of the land package, the 4 pillars of why everyone comes here is certainly these assets right now, which are 3 of them are the state-run mines by the Serbian government, and obviously Čukaru, which is a phenomenal discovery. This is one of our drill programs on Timok North. Essentially, we have 3 key areas, and I'm just going to highlight this one in particular. Borsko is a very interesting license. It is immediately west of a very prolific porphyry cluster. So you have a cluster of mines between Sarovo, Veliki Kriveli, Bor, and obviously the new discovery, Čukaru. When you see that kind of prolific deposit activity, proximity is very, very important. We got this license area in 2011 before Čukaru was discovered, hence why we have this land package. And right now, the focus of our program in 2018 is to continue drilling these targets on the west side of Bor, and I'll kind of go into this, and on the east side of Bor. So we've got basically the land package entirely around that complex and between Bor and Čukaru. So that's really what's causing the excitement in the stock in terms of equity appreciation. And certainly, this is results that will come out by the end of the year. The Timok South area, like I mentioned, is 400 square kilometers contiguous. And really what you want to keep in mind is another partnership, which means more dollars going into the ground and another opportunity for more, basically more discovery. So this is in Bulgaria. So we're moving along the Tethyan Belt towards the southeast. And really the next district is Panagurishta. And pretty much this district here is that license area that has the blue kind of triangle. I don't know if I have a pointer. No, I don't. So essentially this Panagurishta, we like to call it the Timok of Bulgaria, although the Bulgarians like to say that Timok is the Panagurishta of Serbia. But regardless of how you name it, these are really the 2 main porphyry and epithermal districts on the Tethyan Belt. So if you want to be a part of what's going on in terms of copper and gold exploration and discoveries in Eastern Europe, these are the 2 areas that you need to focus on. What's going on in Panagurishta is interesting. It also has open pit porphyry mines, just like Timok. It also has a high sulfidation underground mine, just like Čukaru, which Čukaru is being developed, and it will turn into that over the next 18 months. But that's essentially what you have with Chelopech. And what's interesting is that we have won this license in October of last year, and the Radka mine is fascinating because there, and this is basically, we've been digitizing all the data here. What's interesting is if you look at the magenta intercepts, those are 10 to 23% copper. That's a phenomenal high sulfidation system. And certainly the 1 to 5%, when you look at a map, the yellow portions are usually what, we all ignore because we don't think that's high enough grade. That's 1 to 5%. So that's a phenomenal project that we're going to be focusing on over the next 18 months. And certainly the most important catalyst here is to get that contract signed with the ministry so that we can start the work on the ground as we've already completed all the digitization for the project. So with that, I am out of time and happy to answer any questions if anyone wants to talk about that after. Thank you.